Well, let me share with you words of Dorothy Thembo, Executive Director, AI International Trade Center. She says, there's no doubt that the coronavirus pandemic will bring about the most significant global changes that will be felt for generations. We see this with every new report of rising fatalities and closing businesses. For most countries, the impact will be severe, but for developing countries and those in Africa in particular, it could be catastrophic. Our concentration this morning is on businesses, small, medium businesses in this era of this pandemic. We're going to have a great conversation, and hopefully in the end, we would have given you some ideas if you're struggling right now, trying to look for innovative ways, or if you're doing something small right now, how you can even expand in this era of the pandemic. I've got great company in studio. Is an entrepreneur, but also a CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors. Mr. Senyo Hosi is here. Good morning to you. Thank you for coming.
The pleasure is mine.
Joining us via Zoom is Mr. Evans Asari, his Senior Manager, KPMG. If you can hear me, Mr. Asari, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Great to have you. So let's start.
Thank you so much.
From in studio. I want to ask you, even though we're still trying to build up on the statistics, the virus is still with us. It's affecting everybody, really. Yep. But in country, how is it telling on businesses?
I think that's very, very obvious, something that it's very open for everybody to see. Movement is significantly restricted. The hawkers have definitely experienced some drop in sales. Media is feeling the same. Petroleum is feeling the same. Every sector is actually feeling the same. Demand generally has dropped, and beyond demand actually dropping, you're actually faced with major unemployment. You look at the African Union stats, it's already providing for about 20 million job losses within the formal sector. You look at about 150 million job losses in the informal sector. And those who are going to be hit the most will definitely be the youth. And we're already, as a continent, struggling to see how we're going to deal with about 100 million youth who are actually going to join the unemployment workforce every year. And then Corona makes it even worse. So yes, it's a dire situation, but within that view that one may have are also opportunities that could actually still transform Africa.
Mr. Asari, from where you sit, are there early evidence and estimates about the impacts?
Okay, yes. So let me look at it from a global perspective. I mean, the IMF has given us some figures for us to work with. So the estimates that the total loss in terms of economic output, if this thing travels to 2021, is almost $9 trillion. And that, if I may put it in perspective, it's almost the economies of Germany, UK put together, and that is huge. If we come home, we're estimating that we're going to have a wipeout of our GDP of almost 5.3%. So we're estimating 6.8% growth. But today, we know it is 1.5%. So it is really going to be a significant impact on the economy.
Okay. Mr. Hosi?
In terms of...
Yep.
Okay.
In terms of revenue, for instance, government is projecting that it's going to, have a huge deficit. Already, our budget, couldn't balance anyways, and then we have revenue shortfall. So the deficit is expected to widen, and it's going to go beyond the maximum 5% that we normally would have wished we had.
Okay. Mr. Hosi, you have something to say on that, on those figures you shared?
I'm an economic policy analyst myself, but I have a more pessimistic view.
Okay.
I think the government would have done a great job to actually break even and actually have a 0% growth. We have a bigger risk of having negative growth than I think we seem to be admitting today.
What do you see that maybe others don't see?
I don't think others don't see. I mean, as market watchers, you need to actually sometimes have a very positive view to things. So yes, we are looking at formally a major drop in growth. But looking at how things are turning out today, I think the government will be doing a great job to actually have a 0% growth. So anything beyond that should be quite constructive. So I rather want to have an economy plan towards a 0% growth than anybody actually even looking at any kind of positive growth whatsoever. One, how do we take advantage of the current situation? You have a major drop. We are heavily dependent on some imports. We are having most of those barriers shut today. Rice is a major staple. You have Vietnam, you have Thailand actually cutting out exports today. You have India as a major supplier of medicine to the global space as far as Ghana as well. And you're having them shut out supplies as far as certain things are concerned. All right? That's going to have a major crash on most African economies. China itself has its own challenges. What opportunities are we turning around this particular situation? That should be the key thing. And you can only do that when you actually have more of a pessimistic view to the economy and want to rather take advantage of the situation and see how you can better position yourself within the broader African space and create a new market for ourselves. And I don't see that yet, but I hope that all of us as entrepreneurs and policymakers should start getting a bit more awoken to that.
Okay, so let's just, from where you ended, let's jump into the opportunities available today. We know what we don't have, but this disease has also brought some innovations. What is there today for people to take advantage of?
One of the things that Corona is doing is fast-tracking our preparedness for, or probably our presence in the fourth industrial revolution. I mean, space is becoming less meaningful than it used to be because most of us don't spend much time in our offices like we used to. So it means that the real estate people will have to start rethinking their business. Those in the tourism business will also have to start rethinking their businesses. So you need to see how you can be more IT driven in your business. All right, now everybody's talking about Zoom, people are talking about Skype, people are talking about Hangout that people never used to be accustomed to. And that is a new normal that's going to evolve. So nobody should look at these things as something that's a bit more transient and like we nowadays used to like to say, these two shall pass. I don't accept these two shall pass. You should be more proactive in your economic space and rather want to overcome. And I don't think this is a matter of overcoming, it's about adaptation. How are you going to leverage IT in doing your business? And this is good news for the unemployed youth. You are a bit more savvy at IT than you actually find your uncles and your aunties being. There's a lot more job losses that we are likely going to face because you're not going to have this continuous dip in economic productivity within the private sector and expect people to still sustain the employment base. So creativity now becomes a defining factor, and it's going to be a lot more IT driven. What services can you deliver more remotely? The competition will be the space within the social media sphere, which the youth would understand much better than myself. I'm still trying to get used to Instagram.
You're very youthful.
Well, I hope so, but I see teenagers much more competent at what are the real opportunities than I think I find myself. So those graduating today and worried about unemployment should start looking at new opportunities. Then the next thing for those of us who are probably more advanced in there is start looking at how we can get more active in the production space, in the industrial space. Because Ghana and Africa will need to start producing a lot more things for its own self. Corona is telling us that when push comes to shove, each man for himself, God for us all. Thailand doesn't want to export rice. Vietnam doesn't want to export rice. These are major suppliers of rice in this country. So how do we get the agricultural sector going back on its feet? So those with capital, the businesses will have to start looking and thinking differently. You take sanitizers. A lot of demand is coming from the US right now for sanitizers. If we had positioned ourselves and probably shut our borders a bit earlier, possibly would have been global exporters of sanitizers and other PPEs. So while we are looking at ways to stimulate productivity, taking advantage of this situation, we also have to look at sustainability. Are we going to be able to produce PPEs like we currently have some new companies doing? What sustainable interventions are we going to have from government to make sure these people will not just go beyond this immediate corona problem and probably have this business thrive over the next 10, 15 years? Those are the jobs of the future. So STEM education becomes key, creativity within our space becomes key, you have IT become critical, and we need to let our youth be. We need to inspire them to let themselves and let them actualize their own self. This is their time. I mean, amidst all this problem, it is the time for the youth to excel and their creativity be allowed to thrive within our economic space. So, I mean, it's time to encourage everybody to do something.
Mr. Sari, let me bring you in here. IT driven, how many of our businesses, from what you see, what you can analyze, can catch up with this new normal?
Thank you. It's not a lot of them can catch up with this new normal. I mean, even big businesses are still struggling. If you look at some of the players in the financial services sector, some of them appear not to be prepared for this virtual work, out of the physical space. And so if you look at SMEs, then you really have a difficult situation here. So I largely agree with Senyor's point of view that this is an opportunity for the youth to capitalize on. If you look at the cyberspace, I mean, a lot of work is now going to move into that space. And so if you are an IT person, I mean, this is the time for you to start thinking that, okay, what are the various risks that moving into the virtual space, bring? For instance, we have these whole hackers, cyber attacks all going on across the globe. In fact, this COVID has doubled or even increased the number of hackings that, the FBI is reporting a 4-fold increase in the reports that come to them on, COVID attacks. And so IT people now have to start thinking, how do I create something that will help businesses that are moving into the space? The hackers will see that as their home base, so they will play the home advantage. That's where they have always been. We have always been in the physical space. Now we are going to join them. So how do we create that and ring-fence the business such that we don't get exposed to all these hackings that occur across the globe? I also believe that one of the areas that this whole pandemic has exposed us so much is our healthcare infrastructure. And it is an opportunity for the youth to start thinking that, look, what devices can we create that we are able to provide healthcare services in a very seamless way so that we don't need to be building physical infrastructure. Yes, even COVID, some of the patients were sent home to be treated. Some were given, the opportunity to recuperate at home, and then they were given service. So the youth need to start thinking, what can we do to provide healthcare service in a very IT-driven manner? That is an opportunity that we need to start thinking about. Also, I think research and development also comes to the fore, R&D. Now we are thinking of vaccine. And I was happy that, a Ghanaian was able to, put the genome together of this COVID. And then he was commended by our president. The youth in science would have to start thinking, what can we do in this whole space of finding a vaccine for these kind of pandemics? And especially we know that these viruses normally mutate. So we have to be thinking a step ahead of the virus because we are certain that another pandemic is going to happen. And when it happens, are we really prepared for it?
Let me just ask research and development and the importance of that in this era. And then I'll come to, because I want everybody to be able to relate to this conversation. If you have an auntie or your mother sells makola or malata, for instance, what can you do as the person who is educated, who is now at home, doing nothing and perhaps looking for a job? How can you take advantage of that situation? But let's talk about the research bits. With you, Mr. Asari.
Okay, so if I get you right, I mean, if you are home and your mother sells and makola, what can you do to help? Is that the question?
Okay, I wanted us to talk about the importance of research and then, but
research. Okay, yes. Okay, all right. So research is critical. I mean, this whole pandemic has sort of triggered this whole research that is going on, especially in the development of ventilators. I was so happy to hear that our people here in Ghana are developing prototypes and then other equipment to help us, battle this pandemic. So you need research and development to be able to produce such equipment, especially a ventilator, and to be able to test it and make sure that it is efficient and you can then commercialize it. We are looking at this solar panel that, someone developed for, washing hand. It is quite innovative. And we need such, hubs. And therefore, it makes it critical for us to start thinking about these industrial zones, and then this business incubation, idea that we've always mooted. That look, we set up industrial zones to encourage research and development, especially into IT infrastructure and into healthcare. How can we marry the two, IT and healthcare? There is a lot that we can do there to help, especially even solving our situation of low bed syndrome. What IT solution can we provide such that you don't take a patient to a hospital where there is no bed, that you have an IT solution that will tell you where there is bed available so that you are able to transport the patient there to get the healthcare that the person requires. So research and development cannot be overemphasized in this situation.
Senor, we hear all these things nicely said, but this is Ghana. I mean, are we seriously going to take advantage of this?
The problem we've had is that we hardly plan for the future. We live by the day in our country, and policy has always been positioned that way. And I think if anything at all, we should realize that it's not sustainable. I've been criticizing this. I've also been criticizing our educational system because it's not been futuristic. We should be able to anticipate that the fourth industrial revolution is practically taking over the world. We should prepare ourselves for that. If we had, this would have been a perfect opportunity for us to unleash our potential. We haven't. But it's not too late. It's better late than never. So how do we scale that? I'll use your mokola. I used to sell in Okaishi. So I like the mokola example. Your mother actually sells at mokola today. Fewer people are coming there because, and probably she herself stands the risk of actually getting COVID-19. How do you register most of her customers today and tell them they don't need to actually move into the market? You're going to now invest in the supply chain to deliver things right at their door, right at their shop, so that they can resell from that point. When you start that, you actually build beyond your mother and see you're going to actually manage an e-commerce platform for all the other shops by your mother's place, all the aunties that you possibly were growing around. That's the creativity we need today, and even beyond. You can't want to do things the same old way. Ghana man starts a business and it's one store, and he thinks everybody has to keep queuing in front of that store. I don't know how sometimes we think. Watch a woman has a business and she wants people there to be a very long queue because that's the only way people will see that her watch is good. It's time for you to realize that you need data. Can you build a database of your customers? So you, instead of Mama V going to queue there because she can't even stand there and get exposed to COVID, you can actually have her watches served right at her door. Auntie Muni would have to change her business model today, and that is what you see as something that you find much easier from the youth because they are a lot more tech savvy, but they are a lot more accustomed to technology today than you find most of the old folks. You realize a lot more less people are going to employ people. People will be talking about experience. But I don't think the experience is what you really need that much. You need some experience. But you actually need a lot more innovation. You need a lot more creativity. And you find that more in the youth. So people like you and me should start getting ready to be unemployed and rather be the ones employing the youth. So there's a need for a new orientation as far as the Ghanaian is concerned. There's a need for a reorientation as far as policy making is concerned. Because what can make us thrive is how quick we respond to science, technology, to the entire STEM, education, and translate it into actual productivity. Governments are likely going to have the temptation to want to take consumer-driven interventions because of the social impact. But you only have so much a CD as an economy as Ghana. That much, when you spend it today, should not be something that should largely be consumed. It should actually trigger something that can make this economy sustainable in the next 2-3 years. It is a difficult decision to make. How do we take advantage of it to now build industries that can help us win the war against COVID-19, but more importantly, serve other African countries who are yet to actually get their act together? Somebody has to lead the pack, and he who steps up would have a better chance of thriving in the future, and it has to be Ghana. We have missed the time, but we've not lost the time. We must find a way to get that back and get our teeming youth in production.
Mr. Asare, that's a lot of opportunities if you listen to Senor break it down. But the taste for a lot of young people, we want to dress, wear heels, wear good shoes, and go to a certain space, thank you, go to a certain space called an office where you earn a lot of respect. I mean, how do we get people to move away from that kind of idea, that kind of thinking? Even though you're a graduate, you may have a master's, but this is something that you've got to do. How do we change that?
Well, I think it's been a bit difficult, I mean, over the years because of the structure of our education system. So once someone graduates from the university, the person just puts the CV in an envelope and then goes around looking for a job. I think it's time that we have a paradigm shift from that perspective, that look, it is no more the issue of, going out looking for jobs, waiting for job interviews and all that. That when our education system, what it's aimed at doing is producing people who are talented and innovative, who come and provide solutions. We have challenges as a developing country. We have challenges everywhere in our society, even in the neighborhood that you live. What can you do to be able to solve a problem? Maybe you don't have water. Are you waiting for government to put a pipe over there? What can you think through to be able to solve a need, to provide a need for your community? That is the way we need to start thinking. And we also need to sort of still look at the research area. We need to, some of these things, it is not rocket science, it's been done elsewhere. So can we learn from what others have done elsewhere to be able to solve this situation? There are some countries that have COVID, but haven't had any deaths. So what did they do differently that we are not able to do? So the youth that are coming out of schools need to start thinking of what new things can we do. The old, paradigm is going away. We have a new reality. The new reality is that we're going to have, a lot of this employment being digitized. People are asking, are robots going to replace human beings? It is going to happen that we have a lot more employment being done mechanically or being done digitally. And what are the youth going to do? Are you going to sit there and hold your certificate and say you were a graduate? No, you need to start thinking. And necessity is the mother of innovation. And so this pandemic, I think if there's any lesson we've learned from it, is that it forces us to start thinking that what can we do to solve a problem? Until now, nobody had thought of how to develop a solar powered washing machine, but it's been done. So how can we help the youth to build on that? Nobody developed, thought of developing a ventilator or respirator, but it's been done in Ghana here. How can we help and scale it up? How can we commercialize this? In Senegal, for instance, we are hearing that they are developing 3D ventilators and providing cheap medicine to cure this COVID. Is this something we can learn from? I mean, how did they do it? So it is not rocket science. Our youth need to start thinking and researching, and we'll be able to put together something that is going to help us. As we've been talking about, we are not looking at the present, we are looking at the future. If the one who is able to see further is the one that is going to win, because we are not going to be in this situation forever. It is going to change. And when it changes, how prepared are we for the next thing that will happen? We don't know what is going to happen. It is so uncertain. And so we need to prepare ourselves for anything that will happen in the coming future. I think it is an opportunity for the youth. It's an opportunity for our education system to start thinking that, okay, how can we produce people who are innovators, who are critical thinkers, who can look at problems and provide solutions.
Okay.
That is what I think we need to start doing.
Okay. It's good we are here. Let's stay here for a while, because there are some of the institutions, Senor and Evans, there are some of the institutions that are even struggling to move teaching and learning online and to even organize exams.
Look,
so
I would fire that headmaster. I should fire that VC. He has no space in our education today. It's as simple as that. You understand? We have a country to save. We have a country to nurture and make thrive. It's not time to carry dead weight. I mean, we have to realize that we are not in normal times. It's not time for prisoners. You understand? This country, and he used the right word, win. We have a need to win. Our lives are at stake if we fail to win. It's no joke. It's not every day. It's not ABU, business as usual. I mean, it's not. So things must change. This is the time for you to put your best man in education, your best man in trade. This is the time to have your best man in science. It's a major paradigm shift. that either presents an opportunity for you to win or for you to be crushed. This world is not going to take any prisoners going forward. Where do you want to stand? This is the time you need to have your best man in agriculture, because that is our leverage. Like I've said, in this world, going forward, the only three things that are going to count: IT, food, and water. IT is going to drive everything. Today, I'm on my place, I do a little video before you see, it's everywhere. I don't need Joy FM to get that done. It doesn't cost me that much to get my adverts done. Life has changed. How are we turning this entire COVID thing into an opportunity to transform Ghana? Our solution won't come from petroleum. You've seen the way the petroleum prices have already crashed. Demand has crashed. Demand is going to be a major problem going forward. Petroleum may end up becoming what coal is today. So forget it. But people will have to eat. We can't rely on other people to feed us anymore. Can we turn that into a major commercial thing and feed Africa? All right? Health is not a major problem. We have people who have innovated, like, the solar, whatever it is, the hand washing thing. Stop celebrating them on TV. Start looking at how you can commercialize them and make sure that they start exporting whatever they are doing, all right, across West Africa, before other people start thinking, who will be ahead of the curve? That is the person who will only thrive going forward. And it ought to be our people. You know, we are too laid back and too reactive. You know, our way of thinking must change. And we are all victims of that, or possibly actors in it. But we owe it to the youth to change our orientation and give them a brighter future. Give them a real shot at tomorrow. While we are sitting here and our students are home, the people at Cheripini are home, the students at Yendi are home, at Clever de Mete are home. Those in America are not just at home. They are getting tuition every day. Those in France, some of them are not at home, just there. IT is working. People are getting instructions online. There's online education going on. Do you think that in the next 1 year, the Ghanaian students will be the same as the European or the Western or the Chinese student? The world is not waiting for anybody. The world is not waiting for my children. They are not waiting for your children. The world is moving. So while everybody is shouting, and when you open CNN, all you see is Donald Trump and COVID-19, trust me, people are thinking and making sure they are positioning themselves for the future. So if you sit in Ghana and think the only thing that's happening in the world is COVID-19, you have a generation who would have lost so much time and so much opportunity that the future of your own country will be in question. And like I say, we have a decision to make as a continent and as a people. Do we want to be the makers of or the takers of tomorrow? The West is preparing to make us their takers. They are the makers. I don't think that we should want to be takers. We need to be makers and thrive in this future that's before us.
Let me throw that to you, Evans. How do we've got people who are heading our institutions who don't even know what to do with the exams that's coming up. Some people have simply not even planned. And they are waiting for the president in one of the addresses to say that I have lifted the restrictions so they can go back to the classroom and do the usual. How do we change that? I mean, because you're telling me, the younger person, that these are the opportunities now, but the people who are teaching me don't get it.
Thank you so much. I have a little case, so I can relate to this whole situation of schools that are struggling to put online courses together. I have some kids at home. Then I asked them, "So, are you learning since you've been at home?" They said, "No, they don't know what is happening." Then you are asking yourself, so all the time that these kids have been at home, is it time lost? Have they wasted that opportunity? Where else? Elsewhere, people have moved beyond, the issue of classroom, sitting down and then doing lectures, that we have moved to a digital and e-learning space where people can sit here and obtain degrees without stepping their foot into a classroom. So that's the question we need to ask ourselves. It is an opportunity for those IT savvy entrepreneurs and the youth. I think that this provides a good opportunity for them to develop educational solutions. It is an opportunity, a big one at this stage for them, because a lot of especially the basic schools are struggling to even put online programs together. And how do you even do it? Zoom, how do you get a parent? I mean, there are some, let's admit it, there are some parents who don't know anything about IT and their kids are in this school. How do they get their kids to be able to connect to the lectures? It's a question that I sit here and I'm asking myself. I get notification from my school saying that there will be online or a trial at this time. So connect your child. And then I'm asking myself, okay, so if I'm a parent, I don't know how to operate a Zoom platform. How do I get my child to be able to connect to it? And so this is something we need to look at it from a holistic point of view. We need to have a national strategy towards developing an IT-oriented and e-learning, programs, models for different levels. And our people need to psych themselves up that, look, the whole brick-and-mortar school thing is going to change. If we don't change it ourselves, another pandemic or another situation is going to change it, and it's going to force us to be able to start thinking that e-learning is the way to go in the next generation.
Well, this whole conversation really is to provide insight and guidance to small businesses searching for ways to cope with the operational stress generated by the COVID-19. Senyo Hossi is here. Evans Asari is joining us via Zoom. He's a senior manager, KPMG. Senyo is the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, but he's also a great entrepreneur and policymaker, very passionate about, for instance, the conversation that we're having. So why don't you just give us a call? If you have any challenges you want to bounce it off them, please do so. 0302-211-69-102. 0302-211-69-102. You've got to be able to do that in about 5 minutes before we wrap up this conversation. So Senyo, is there a place, I don't know, where people are filing unemployment, they are getting some kind of monies? Is there anything that that young people and people who don't have jobs or whose businesses have collapsed can also do? Is there a Ghana homemade policy like that?
Ghana hasn't got what I would say reliable data on employment and unemployment. No government has shown the willingness to deal with that. In the US, in the West, there's proper data on employment and unemployment, because as much as possible, they try to formalize the entire economy. We have deliberately not formalized our economy. And everybody goes around banding all kinds of data. You run a survey and you ask somebody whether the person has earned an income in the last, I've forgotten what days they ask, whether the last 30 days or so. And say, yes, I earned some income. You say he's employed. The guy went to carry some concrete just for 2-3 days. So he got something. You call that guy an employed person. All right? We should know it's not sustainable. How are we making sure everybody is actually rolled into our pension system so you can actually see proper data on who is employed and who is not employed? How are you actually going to administer social intervention when you don't have visibility on data? That's why our interventions in this country don't follow the norms of economics. You make this intervention, you don't get the right response in the economy because there's actually inadequate data for it. There's no way government is easily going to be able to afford a major, social intervention. And governments must be careful. You don't have so much. It is time for all of us to know that we all have a certain responsibility to help carry each other, like we naturally do as families. But what you want to see policymakers do is making the right investments that can trigger economic sustainability for everybody. So, like I cited, somebody has a nice idea. What is the trade ministry going to do? How are you going to support that guy with business development, with skills, so that he can actually grow, so that he starts building businesses that export and employs people? Because the new type of employment you need is different. How are we going to get our education, our universities, to stop their akapompo thing that they have been carrying and start seeing that the akapompo is no more sitting? I don't know if you know what akapompo is. Academic pomposity, the gown that we wear. It's no more in the photo shoots that we have anymore. We're actually going to be able to build a whole new e-learning industry. Our universities should now become e-universities. And then you actually make money from there. People complain about the science student. They say, you see, we are refusing to think.
people can spend a lot more time rather getting educated without being physically present because of the humanities and other programs that they do. One, choose the right programs that position us for that future. And after choosing that, there's space there. Let the science students come and use social distancing to run their labs. Because you need those science students to go, to be able to win in the STEM economy as we see the world evolving to be.
Let's go to the phone lines now. We've got Stephen and Shadrach, but I'll take Stephen first. Stephen is joining us from Nkoko. Stephen, good morning.
Good morning, madam.
Yes, sir. Let's hear you. Yeah.
Concerning the online Zoom or online education, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask, how many students may have laptops in their home? How many people do have Android phones that can do that connection, that can support the connection that they wanted to learn from? You get it?
Okay.
So
the
problem of learning online is a little bit confused because even some of the areas that the student may have or may live, the network situation over there sometimes don't work. So when you check, let's say, Vodafone or MTN, when you move to just a little step, you may not have that access.
Okay. All right.
So this connection and all this, and even if you tell a student that we maybe 2-3 hours, you will have online study. Maybe the parents may decide to move those children to the farm. You get it?
Okay. All right. I get you, Stephen. I get your point. Let's talk to Shadrach. I'll come to you for a reaction. Shadrach, good morning.
I remember last week, we're doing quizzes and other things. Some couldn't even log in because of poor network, and some also logged in. And it has been a major challenge facing society. That is why most of us are educating. That is why most of us are talking ill about this all model. And so I want the IT man to also come out with some solution that he may bring out.
Okay. All right.
If something good can be done about this, because it is becoming a major issue for special students.
Okay, great. So Stephen and Shadrach have similar concerns. Ben is in Wali Wali. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, madam.
Yes, sir. Let's hear you.
Yeah. My problem is based on the e-learning.
Okay.
Our problem, what of our students who are in the local area, how many of them can provide laptops or 100 phones that can get connected online or this? It's very pathetic. So why not we put in a different way? I'm making on the television on the content, but how possible or how is it easy? Let's say if I have about 4 or 5 students in my house, how can it be possible for one person to provide either laptop or underfoot for this? So I'm sure if we put in a different way, it will be better.
Okay. All right, Ben. Senor, all 3 callers have similar issues.
My friends, we are not in normal times for us to spend too much energy trying to find excuses. We are in a country where mobile penetration is actually higher than the entire population. We have about 40 million phones and we are 30 million people. You have 48% data penetration. How much time do we spend on Facebook? How much time do we spend on WhatsApp? We know how to WhatsApp, but you don't want to spend the energy and time to actually invest in knowing how to Zoom and learn, in knowing how to Skype and learn, in trying to e-learn. But you can spend fine time and use data following WhatsApp memes, which I can share some. You understand? And following Facebook and passing all kinds of comments, spending so much time on Instagram. Guys, it's time for us to prioritize rights. We should realize that this is not just a conversation about a certain time. It's about your own survival. If your life depends on it, will you choose WhatsApp, Facebook over your e-learning?
So if you don't have a laptop, because I heard all 3 mention laptop.
I'm telling you have 40 million phones in this country and you have 30 million human beings. And you're telling me about laptop. This is a computer I'm holding. All right? It's more powerful than a number of laptops. You understand? So if you can do WhatsApp, you can do Facebook. For God's sake, think.
Let me throw it to you, Evans. What are the alternatives? You've heard all the concerns.
I think the concerns are quite, common, and then it's quite instructive to know that even these are coming from the youth, and it's not coming from, the aged who are sort of, someone would say that their time is past. It is very, very sad that, our youth are even complaining about laptops and then, access to, infrastructure to do e-learning. I think it is time for policy initiatives to be developed on e-learning. If we cannot provide a laptop for every child or every student or every people, I think we need to start creating hubs across the country, e-learning centers, so that people can access these centers and then use them for their educational purposes. We may not have the resources to be able to provide laptops for everyone. We may not have the resources to be able to provide broadband connectivity across the country. It is probably not possible resource-wise. We have a limitation. But how can we leverage what we have now to be able to extend education to the rural areas? And these are people coming, people are calling from Nkoko. This is not even the typical rural area. Nkoko is not a rural area. So when you go to our mother's villages somewhere where they don't even have electricity, how are they going to be able to connect to the new way of learning? So this is quite a very difficult challenge that we need to start thinking through. And it will take the youth to solve this. It will take the youth to provide a solution, something that is cost effective. It is happening elsewhere, and we think that we can do.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. We will certainly come back to you. These are not ordinary times, so we need conversations like this to give people ideas as well. Thank you, Evan Sasari, his senior manager, KPMG. Senor, always grateful. Thank you for joining us in studio.
Pleasure.
All right. And I'll keep telling the story of the facility that's been built. I've got a feature that's coming up that we will all see. But for now, thank you for your time. Stay with us when we return. The second lady, Samira Baumia, is seeking to publish the works of writers aged between 15 and 25. We've got details here on the show.